Hi, everyone. Welcome to Open Infra Live. This is a live webinar hosted by the Open Infra Foundation and the Open Infra Global Community. My name is Allison Price, and I'm going to be your host for today. I'm really excited because yesterday was a significant milestone for the OpenStack community, where the 30th release was delivered on time, per usual. And so I've invited several of the community leaders to come here today, talk about what those features are, and answer any questions that you might have live about this release, what's coming in the 31st release, and any OpenStack questions that you might have. So let's get started. Before we kick off, I do want to thank all of the Open Infra Foundation members who make things like this Open Infra Live series possible. If you would like to become one of those members, please reach out at openinfra.dev/join. We would love to collaborate with you with the global Open Infra community. Now, before we dive too deep into the 30th release Dalmatian, I wanted to talk about something that I'm personally really excited about. I've been working here at the foundation for 10 years and collaborating with the OpenStack community. And right now is a really special time because we're seeing another big surge in OpenStack demand. And there are some common key drivers that are influencing that surge and getting more people to ask about OpenStack and for building their own OpenStack environments with our global ecosystem of partners. One of those is digital sovereignty. So knowing where your data lives, who has access to it, and what laws apply to it. And this is particularly important in Europe, where there are a lot of different laws that apply to the data that is stored within infrastructure. Licensing changes. Now, this one, I believe Thierry Perez earlier said you might have been living under a rock if you haven't heard about the VMware licensing changes and the impact that that's starting to have on the OpenStack community. And I still think we're at the very beginning, but we're seeing a lot of organizations reevaluate their virtualization strategy and consider OpenStack as a viable alternative for VMware. And so that's driving another significant wave of demand. Security concerns. If you're building infrastructure, security is one of your top priorities. And the OpenStack community addresses features every cycle to make sure that the security within OpenStack is top notch. And then the last one, and this is another key topic that is, very popular worldwide, is how AI is redefining the infrastructure needs. So what are those requirements? How does accelerated compute and change the demands placed on infrastructure? And we're excited to see that OpenStack is already responding with users running OpenStack in production for AI, but also features landing upstream that help improve the infrastructure for AI that people are looking for. And we're already seeing some of this, get shared more broadly in the IT industry. Geico, one of the largest insurers in North America, dropped VMware for OpenStack, and they're now a member of the Open Infra Foundation, and they're actively and openly building a cloud-native strategy. And we're just seeing, everyone acknowledge this renewed interest in OpenStack, driving massive demand. And so it's really exciting to see from an adoption perspective, but even more exciting when we get to talk about the release that is actually, this is what people are coming for. They're coming for the software. So today we are going to be talking about OpenStack 2024.2 Dalmatian. And I do want to give a shout out to Amy Marich, who this is her pup, Cody, who really illustrates the agility of not only the software, but also the OpenStack community who builds the software. And, we talked about some of the drivers for the demand for OpenStack from an adoption perspective. But what's really exciting, like I mentioned, is that the upstream features are really reflecting those needs as well. And so to improve the software, to make OpenStack the option of choice for people who are building their cloud infrastructure. So we've already had quite a few conversations this week, and everyone's really excited to talk about what the themes are within OpenStack, what the community as a whole is delivering as part of the 30th release, and what the next plans are for Epoxy, which is the 31st release. But you all didn't come here to listen to me. You came here to listen to some of the technical experts that actually put a lot of work and a lot of time into Dalmatian, as well as all of the other OpenStack releases. So to kick things off, I would like to introduce Gotham, who is the chair of the OpenStack Technical Committee, so he can provide a little bit more insight around this release. Gotham, the floor is yours.
Hi. Thank you, Allison. So on behalf of the OpenStack Technical Committee, I'd like to congratulate and thank nearly 500 contributors who authored changes that made this Dalmatian release possible. So let's take a moment to express our gratitude to folks that have helped in any way to make this possible. Though a lot of time was spent reporting and triaging bugs, fixing CI issues, addressing technical debt, working as a true open source community would, right? Like running meetings, mentoring new contributors, aligning requirements, releases, deliberating code reviews over IRC, over mailing lists, in-person events, maintaining critical community infrastructure, translating code, translating documentation, and helping users all over. So this software that is built for you is built with sweat, tears, and love, truly. So on the next slide, I have this snapshot that I captured from the community analytics website, Bitergia. So thank you, Bitergia. The contribution numbers are slightly different from the page on this page, given how they index the repositories and identify authors on Git. However, the trends are perceptible, right? So there were over 169,000 patch sets that were submitted during this time, and over 2,000 email exchanges occurred. So I'm very proud of the momentum that this community continues to keep. So today, as I recap the release in terms of the OpenStack technical community, I'd like to note a few changes that had a significant impact for us as far as the governance for this community. So first, for an open community like ours, it would not be possible without the commitment to have a level playing field. Um, so volunteers from across the community, they self-nominate themselves to be leaders within this community. And so we have elections during each release that help us identify those individuals that can lead us. So during this release, we made a number of changes to this election process and to the tooling. So we announced election dates quite early in the release cycle, and our election officials were extremely efficient. They communicated directly with project maintainers to seek nominations in time. And we also inadvertently had an extended voting period, but I think we liked it. So it was in our collective interest, given how geographically diverse our community is, and given all the holidays from across the world. So with these past elections, we welcomed two new TC members, the first-time TC members, Doug Goldstein and Sylvain Bowser, and you have all of the other familiar faces on the TC on that table in that slide. So thank you for your contributions. And besides the people that work the magic, are 37 PTLs that we have nominated this cycle. And there were four project teams that have adopted the distributed leadership model, which means that they have multiple liaisons that lead their projects. And there are four teams that we would still need to make some PTL nominations, PTL appointments, and those are listed there. Not all of them will have PTLs by the end of it, but we will communicate with you on that on the OpenStack Discuss email list as this progresses. And over here, there is a wall of text, but I'm trying to summarize all of the significant governance changes that we made during this cycle. So first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate the OpenStack Skyline team. So they have been an emergent technology for a while now, and this is the first official release for the repositories Skyline UI and Skyline Console. So this signifies that this is ready for prime time and for production use case. So we're very excited about this project. And the release team has transitioned the Z branch across all of the projects with RC. That's the release model. The Z branch is now unmaintained. And the TC continued to track project activity across the community, and we were trying to weed out, projects that we think have reduced in terms of interest and in terms of activity, and this makes governance a whole lot easier for people as well, so that our limited resources can actually be put in places where there is more of a demand. And so we identified some inactive projects during this cycle, and we've stopped releasing these projects, um, and we have been communicating with the community over the mailing lists and so on. And during this 2024.2 release, we have retired a few projects, and this could just be the zeitgeist of our times, right? Technically, it is projects that have been the use cases have been solved at a different layer in the stack. And these project teams have disbanded, and they have aggregated their use cases in different projects within OpenStack. So the projects that we've retired are Solum, the application lifecycle management project; Murano, the application catalog project; Sahara, the big data processing project; Senlin, the clustering service; EC2 API, which used to be the AWS compatibility layer. And we've also done a bit of consolidation. So the OVN project is now going to be shipped as part of the Neutron core, and so are a bunch of Charms repositories. And you will also see, the deployment projects and configuration management projects associated with these services have also been sunset during this release cycle. And besides this, I think we had about 146 PyPy repositories where we had a bunch of maintainers that were not, bots, or not completely controlled by the open infra folks. And these were all trusted maintainers. But in the interest of security, we undertook the arduous task of securing this and removing these human maintainers, so we could be, more streamlined in how we release our software. Again, to remind you, PyPy is just one of the many places where this software is released, except it was one of the places where we did have maintainers that were not in this, not the CI system, basically. And now we also had made a change to the distributed project leadership model. So in this model, you have a bunch of liaisons. It is not a single project team lead that is automatically responsible for 50 project activities. These liaisons play the role of the PTL in different areas. And so the change that we made during this cycle was that every project that follows this TPL model would relinquish it at the end of the cycle. Which means that by default, we'll assume that every project wants to have a PTL, wants to elect a PTL, unless the team, says that they want to continue to have the DPL model. This helps the TC, monitor project activity and make sure that the liaisons that have signed up to take care of certain areas of those projects are all still interested in doing so, and so on. And we also had a couple of inactive projects continue in this cycle. Those were the monitoring service, Monasca, and the disaster recovery service, Freezer, which means that there are no releases from these projects, no automatic releases from these projects. But the communities are still forming around this project, these two projects. And we picked a Python version that we're going to Python versions that we are going to support with the 2025.1 epoxy release. Those would be Python 3.9 all the way to 3.12. So these are all the governance changes that we made. So let's pick up on where are we going to go from here. What is our release themes for epoxy? What is the governance thinking about for epoxy? So as far as community goals go, we've identified some goals that we are going to do, that we are going to collectively undertake. We are going to be testing with the latest OS distributions in our continuous integration systems. We're continuing to work on the secure default role-based access control changes that have been happening over the past few release cycles. We're also starting the effort to replace eventlet and addressing other technical debt in similar veins. And as you can see across the community, the focus areas have been, to make this Slurp release. Epoxy is going to be a Slurp release, which means that you should be able to upgrade directly from Caracal to Epoxy. And so we want to make it as stable as possible and as smooth as possible. And we want to increase the contributor engagement as we've been striving for. And we would like to keep the focus on security and vulnerability management. And with all the things that you heard from Allison, we are seeing quite a lot of work being done on VMware migration and feature parity, and alongside supporting new and evolving use cases. I do realize the dates are off. I think it's supposed to be the 21st of October on the right side of this slide, and the 25th of October on so those are the two dates we've identified for the PTG that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So what's the PTG? Well, that's a place where you can come see the technical committee members and interact with us, and also discuss all the priorities for this upcoming cycle. So that's the link to the Etherpad, and we are meeting at those particular times. I have included the diversity working group meeting that happens before the TC meeting on that day, on the 21st of October. You'll find a number of TC members over there to discuss some important aspects where we would like to reflect on some of the inclusivity changes that we'd like. And also, the TC would like to bookend the discussions and try to get set off certain discussions in project teams, as well as try to recap those discussions at the end. So you'll see that the time slots are at the beginning, at the end of the project team gathering event, which happens all of the week. So I'm excited to see you all at that event. Please, come say hi, and also join us in the brainstorm for epoxy. So that's all I had for you today. Over and back to Allison.
Thanks, Gotham. And I'm really excited personally to see the VMware feature parity as a priority for epoxy. I think that's definitely going to be something the market is really excited about. While we didn't have any questions, I did just want to thank you. So this was your first cycle to be the TC chair. And I know you're doing it again for epoxy, and there's so much work that goes into that slides can't even capture. So I just want to thank you for your leadership in the community, and everything you've done to get Dalmatian across the finish line and prepare us for epoxy. All right, thanks, Gotham. So next, we will be looking deeper into Manila. So I'd like to introduce Carlos to go over those features and what's next in the epoxy cycle.
Great. Thank you, Allison. Hello, everyone. I'm Carlos. I'm the OpenStack Manila PTO, and I would like to take you through some updates during the 2024-2 cycle. So starting with a couple of new features, or what's new or updated in the Manila core, and some changes that you can expect. So first of them, we had a new feature implemented in the Manila code base, which allows users to manipulate some select storage capabilities with some metadata changes. But does that mean in practice? Well, sometimes administrators or users created shares, and then some capabilities would stay as they are, and then even if some storage capabilities needed to be modified, it was a bit more painful. So we are trying to make that easier with providing a new configuration option to OpenStack operators that would allow them to pretty much define what are some storage capabilities that should be reflected on the shares when they are updated. So operators can pretty much define those. And then whenever a metadata like that is set in the shares, then the storage is going to update the shares in the backend. Another great update is we've implemented a feature that allows provisioning shares on hosts that are currently under maintenance. So we have some shares and the share services. And then sometimes there's a chance that they are under maintenance, but that doesn't mean they're down or there's no connectivity to the backend. But, that's just the operators trying to signalize that, some of the requests shouldn't go through that. But we didn't allow, forcing the request to go to those backends when they were in the disabled state. But now it's possible. And then you should just use one capability that we call only host. And, it pretty much will send the request directly to that specific backend. And it's a great user experience enhancement for administrators and trying to get them more freedom to help us define where their shares should land. Another thing is we've been consistently adding or metadata to a lot of the resources in the Manila code base. So we've reformulated the work for shares metadata, and then we went ahead and implemented snapshots metadata, and then share network subnets, and then the work continued this cycle. I think it was also like a very good use case for us, which is allowing to manipulate the metadata on the share export locations or export paths, as you prefer. So that can, in some cases, for example, like you might not want like someone modifying what is, like there's a field called preferred, and you would not like them to modify, define what's the preferred export location for users mounting the shares. So you can pretty much define what are the keys or the metadata that only administrators or OpenStack operators can modify. So that is done through a new export location or admin only export location metadata key, and then you can pretty much add it to your configuration file, and then Manila will apply, like the policies thing, and allow only so people with more privileges to make the changes to those. Other user experience enhancement, which is some updates to the Manila manage command, which is pretty much, you can use the Manila manage to interact with some more like admin stuff of Manila. And previously we didn't support other output types other than like printing a table in the terminal. So that is kind of difficult when you have some automations, like running that command and trying to figure out some things and deciding stuff based on that. So that takes a lot of effort on trying to get the output and pretty much trying to decode it and breaking it apart and getting only the information that you need. So now we've also support for the services listing command. We support the JSON and YAML output types. That should help a lot with automations for people that are consuming Manila. Another feature that we've heard a lot, we've heard a lot of the requests for it, and it would help with cloud updates and cloud upgrades, is allowing people to recalculate the export locations without any downtime. So the export location recalculation, it happens only when it used to happen only when you restarted the Manila Share Manager service, which is going to talk directly to your storage. And then it would pick up the configuration changes, like, if an IP had changed. For example, we had an example with the Ceph monitor IPs changing, and then people needing to restart that and cause an outage. Now you don't need to do that anymore. There's an API that will directly touch that piece of code for you and will recalculate the export locations. So that's another good addition. We had a lot of requests for that, and it will help a lot with updates and upgrades. Now by default, as well as many other projects are continuing their steps on our back, Manila will also require the user scope to be set within the OpenStack identity service, basically because of our back, and we are trying to make our steps and be compliant with it and move with the community. One update to a feature is we have implemented and it was a big it is a big case for us, because we are trying to add support to virtual UFS and having Manila shares attached to Nova instances, and then we needed to update some of the features in Manila on this cycle. So now whenever you are locking a share, or you are trying to restrict the deletion of it, then if you lock the share, it will also, or if you lock the access rules, it will also lock the shares for you, and you don't need to do like the double step again, and it will secure your share from being deleted. So that's another update. Now I think we have some driver updates that are pretty much, like I try to separate the core updates from the drivers. A new driver was added, and then you can, if you have a vast data storage appliance, then you can configure it in Manila. It will support, like the basic supported operations and also snapshots. So that's it was really nice to have another driver. We've been adding some drivers over the past cycles, and this was another one. Great addition, and happy to see more people proposing drivers to Manila. Another feature for a specific driver that we have added is manage support for SFFS. So it's not a new feature in the in Manila core, but some drivers you were not implementing this. And manage pretty much means if you are migrating from one cloud environment to the other, then you already have some existing NFS or some Ceph workloads. You can pretty much leave them there, and then you can have Manila taking care of the life cycle of them. So you go through the manage process with Manila, and then you will bring it under Manila's management, and Manila will be able to manage all of the life cycle, like extending, shrinking, and creating from snapshots and all of those things. So it is also available for snapshots, not only for shares. So the like manage for shares and also share snapshots. Yeah, and now on NetApp ONTAP, two NetApp ONTAP specific features. One of them is the ability to specify pre-created NetApp ONTAP efficiency policies through a share type extra spec. And the other one is the ability to create write-ons, read many, or also known as warm shares, through with NetApp storages through the use of the NetApp's snap lock feature. So yeah, that's all for the what's new. Now we have some plans for the next release. So we've been discussing for a while the support of share encryption, and now we are trying to have it tested with a first-party driver. We will also be discussing this at the PTG. Continue adding open API coverage. So we have some interns working with us, and also a great buddy, Stephen, with a lot of help for us on getting this reviewed and helping us with some interns. Support for updating access rules, access level. It's another feature that was requested by operators and users. Yeah, eventlet, we need to take care of that too. And also some enhancements to share backups and trying to get it implemented with Ceph as well. So all of this is going to be discussed at the PTG, and it's always fun to join the Zorillas there. I've already booked the slots, and there is the Epoxy PTG Manila planning. So if you are, like if you are willing to, please bring up a topic, and we'll be happy to be discussing features and any other things that you think, like that you would like to bring up. If you would like to see a new feature be implemented, or if you have feedback on other features, please join us. That's really important for us. And a lot of these features that I just mentioned, they came from like feedbacks through PTGs or operators asking of us for features or any other enhancements. So that's all I had. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you at the PTG.
Thank you, Carlos. Next, we're going to have Sylvan come on and talk a little bit about what Nova did in the last release. All yours, Sylvan.
Hey, thanks, Elena. So, thanks. So I'm Sylvain. I'm the PTL for OpenStack Nova, at least from a few cycles. Maybe you don't even know me. Okay. So next slide, please. Let me explain you the key highlights for this cycle. So basically, cycle, we had 15 blueprints that were accepted. Unfortunately, I was provided a typo. None 9 were implemented, but rather 6 of them. So basically, we had like a bit less blueprints that were merged, but hopefully next cycle we should be looking again about those blueprints, and they should be merged. Okay, about the bugs, about the bug reports, we had I verified that we had 31 bug fixes that were merged, and basically I think it was nice. So that means for us, for Dalmatian, maybe we work more about bug fixes more than blueprints, but that's fine. We'll be discussing about the features by the next slide. As a reminder, as we said, it's a non-slop release, so that means that you can't skip Caracal. You basically need to upgrade to Caracal and then upgrade to Dalmatian. But next, if you want, for the next cycle, you will be able to directly go to epoxy if you don't want to use Dalmatian. So okay, so next cycle, as you can see, for the 6 features that we accepted, at least one was important. For virtual GPUs, so basically Nova supports virtual GPUs from maybe 5 or 6 years. Every time that you were rebooting the compute, then you are needing to recreate directly the mediated devices. The mediated devices are actually the virtual GPUs, if you prefer. It was a bit difficult for operators because they were needing to remember exactly which mediated devices to recreate. So what we did on Dalmatian is that basically we used a new virt support that was persisting the mediated devices. So now when you reboot the host, then the mediated devices will still be there. So you don't have to be afraid of rebooting the compute if you need. Another feature was related to UEFI firmware. Some operators, or rather I would say maybe some users, were wanting to have a stateless firmware for security reasons. So basically someone worked on that last cycle, and we merged it. So basically, no, you can create a specific image. You can just a specific property that says firmware status, and if your libvirt version for the host is good, then the instances will be launched with stateless firmware. Another feature was related to VTPM support. So basically, VTPM is important, for example, for Windows instances. So Nova basically now automatically detect VTPM support. Previously, we were already supporting VTPM, but you are needing to exactly say which models to use, etc., etc. No, it's automatic. Nova will basically look whether it can use VTPM, and if SWTPM is installed on the node, then if again the libvirt version is good, then it will already provide the models for VTPM. Another feature related to security, I will say, is about TLS for SPICE consoles. So now you can ask TLS for a connection to SPICE. Hopefully next cycle we'll have another feature related to SPICE, but I won't discuss that now. Hopefully next cycle. And one last feature was related to a specific scheduler filter. No, you can provide multiple aggregate keys in the same aggregate. That removes the limitation of the number of tenants. Basically, if you prefer, when you are creating an aggregate and you are wanting to use the specific filter, which was aggregate multi-tenancy isolation, you are having a limit for the number of tenants you are wanting to have. And no, this is no longer a problem. Voilà, that's basically it for the features. Next slide, please. Oh, by the way, the QR code that you saw on the last slide and for this slide, for the previous slide, it was about basically it was related to the release notes, so you can see these notes directly. And for this QR code, you could be seeing the pad that I will discuss. So what we should be discussing for the PTG, that will be in 3 weeks, I would say, by now. At least we'll be discussing about Dalmatian. The fact, for example, that we didn't have a lot of features, but bug fixes, I would say. We'll also be looking at the deadlines for the epoxy contributions. So basically, if you want to create a new feature for Nova by epoxy, you need to know about the deadlines, and we'll tell you after the PTG. We should be discussing about some features. At least what's important is about the image backend refactoring. You probably knew about the CVs that we had previously that were related. We had a few CVs in Caracal related to some images. So after fixing all those problems, we said, okay, basically the image backend is not really that good. Leave that image backend, I say. So maybe you should be refactoring it, because just to make sure that we don't have any other regression. I think Gautam discussed about eventlet. For Nova, we should be also discussing about how to remove eventlet in our own project. We should be also discussing about some other support for what I name VFI variant drivers. I don't exactly want to explain exactly what this means, but it's a bit related of GPUs, I would say. Some kind of new ways to support virtual GPUs. So that would be a discussion that we'll have in the PT. And of course, more. The Etapad is a bit small for the month, but I'm asking the contributors to provide their own topics by the next week. So basically, if you are an operator, or if you want to work on Nova and you want to discuss about something, like for example, say you have a problem, or you want to have something new, add your topic in the Etapad. Add also your name. So basically, I can ping you. And then we could be discussing your stuff. So again, we said that, I think many people said that here, but the more we have in the pad, then the more we can organize for the cycle. Voilà, that was basically it for me. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sylvan. And next up, we will have the Ironic project discussed by Ricardo. I'll hand it on over to you.
Thank you, Helena. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Ricardo, the PTL of Ironic, and well, I'm quite happy to be here. I've been confirmed as PTL for this cycle, and this is like really important for us because this year we're celebrating the 10th year anniversary of Ironic, so very important. But let's dive into what was Ironic in Dalmatian. Please, next slide. Thanks. So let's start by giving some some numbers. In Ironic, we had over 350 commits. We're talking about like 40,000 lines of code, which is an impressive number. I think it was around 30,000 during Caracal, something like that. We had over 30 contributors and 14 companies and almost 100 bugs fixed, which is quite a lot. Some interesting things to mention here. So we had, of course, some new contributors during the cycle, which I'm very happy about, but also some of the new contributors that we had during Caracal are actually sticking around, which is great. And one more thing, interesting enough, I said we had like contributions from 14 different companies, but the third highest number of reviews actually come from independent contributors, which is like kind of interesting per se. Next slide. Thanks. So some highlights and new features. First of all, we had the concept of runbooks to enable project members' nodes maintenance. So what does this mean? The runbooks are kind of lists of repeated steps of operations that can be run on nodes and that are associated using traits instead of normal cleaning steps, manual cleaning steps. And they also follow standard RBAC rules. So they allow projects to limit who can actually execute these operations on nodes. In short, it simplifies and allows like even normal project members to execute some operations on nodes restricted by the standard RBAC rules. We also completed a migration of Inspector into Ironic. So the Inspector project is now deprecated. We are still going to maintain it for a while, just for the standard bug fixes and security fixes in case. But yeah, there's no need to install Inspector anymore as a separate service. We simply added a new plugin in Ironic called Agent that does exactly what the Inspector did before. There are still some bits that we are working on, but very like small things, and we should be able to finish everything during the epoxy development cycle. Some talks about the firmware updates, which is kind of important from operator perspective. It's now possible to do updates on active nodes using the firmware interface. What does it change? We use the Redfish driver firmware update feature now as a service step to trigger the update, meaning that it simplifies a lot the firmware updates, especially on BMCs that manage multiple hosts. BMCs like baseboard management controllers, so the lower layer that controls all the entire functionality of a node of a server. We finished removing some deprecated drivers like IBMC, Xclarity, and iDirectW in favor of more modern Redfish-based drivers. So there's nothing a lot to add here. We just removed these drivers because they were obsolete and deprecated and really not actually maintained anymore. We just use Redfish-based drivers, which are way more modern and the standard and definitely what everyone should use in terms of communication with baseboard management controller. So again, the lowest layer of control that we have in a server. We also added the ability to fetch list of virtual media devices attached to a node using the Virtual Media Devices API that was introduced in Caracal. This was like a leftover work from the past implementation of the generic Virtual Media Device API, which is now complete. Talking again about Redfish, we updated the Redfish interoperability profile to version 1.1.0. What does this mean again? We basically added a lot of missing resources and fields for the Redfish standard, and we clarified their purpose. Again, Redfish is now the standard that we should be looking at for the interaction with baseboard management controllers. So it's very important that we keep this up to date. We also added the option to disable some boot modes during deployment, which has also some kind of impact on the security side, since we can now completely block the use of some boot modes, for example, Pixie, and rely on secure boot, secure mode only. But in general, also allows to reduce the complexity of the deployment itself. We also decided to stop testing partition images in favor of whole disk images. We're not removing the functionality entirely, but moving forward, we've decided to test only UEFI partition images, which are like the mainly used now. And the reason behind this is mainly because of the complexity in maintaining the underlying code. And well, also the usage is mainly on whole disk images, so it didn't really make sense to keep testing them in their full functionalities. Next slide. Thank you. I wanted to give two things a special focus. The first one is some security updates. So now the the rescue password are now required to be hashed. We've also reduced or removed some nodes information during the cleaning phase to avoid showing sensitive data. And the Ironic services now use HTTPS by default to communicate, which is, of course, a great improvement in terms of security. And I'd like to mention that we had a very nice meetup at CERN on June 5th, 2024. It was co-hosted with the Open Infra Days at CERN as well on June 6th, so the day after. If you want more information, I linked the Etherpad there with all the discussions. This was the meetup that happened after 5 years. So we met again at CERN. Ironic and OpenStack entirely, they have a special relationship with CERN. Talking specifically about Ironic, most of their servers are managed by Ironic services, and they are like contributors to the Ironic project since a long time. They keep contributing, they keep collaborating. We always have like nice discussions. We actually had two presentations during the meetup, one on Ironic itself and one on MetalCube, which is a CNCF project that uses Ironic as its engine. And a very long discussions on various bare metal and Ironic related topics. The participation was huge, and we're actually planning to have a bare metal SIG session during the PTG if time allows. Next one. Thanks. So some spoilers on what the plans are for the epoxy development cycle. These are like three topics that we're going to discuss during the PTG. First one is the bootable containers, which is a completely new topic for us. We're going to explore the bootable containers. This is going to probably help during deployments, but I'm not going too much into details, just mentioning that. And again, we will have a dedicated session for that. Also, the console login support. This is like a recurring topic for us, and we really like to make some true progress during the next cycle. And we're talking about login for like console login for a node using graphical console, and also the support for the 4K block devices.
were already some there's already some movement and discussions around this topic, but we're going to explore it more during the PTG. Next one. Thanks. So some information about the ironic sessions. The current session schedule is Monday to Thursday. We don't plan to have any sessions on Friday. I've linked the agenda there, and the virtual room will be Mitaka. I wrote current sessions because we're planning to have an APAC friendly session with slightly different times, since like we're going with some early times, at least for Europe. And we also plan to have some joint sessions with other projects to discuss some like topics that we have in common with other projects, especially with Nova and Neutron. And we already have like a long list of topics, but like I ask contributors and operators, if you have something to discuss, please add your topic to the list. You're like, of course, you're welcome to do that. And that's all, folks. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, before we hand it over to John, we did have one question come in for you.
All right.
It was asking what are some of the improvements in Redfish?
Well, I think I'm not sure if we have enough time to discuss that, but
we can always share
definitely, yeah, I mean, that is something that, well, definitely velocity, like speed in terms of communication with the baseboard management controllers, more stability as well, more access to the very low layers of motherboards and of the servers. But yeah, that's all in terms of it will take a lot of time to discuss all of that. But I mean, please join our IRC if you want to discuss that, or our meetings on Mondays, or the PTG. We will have a lot of discussions about Redfish improvements. So
perfect. Well, thank you, Ricardo. And next, we'll hand it over to John, our final speaker, to talk a little bit about Cinder. All yours, John.
Hello, my name is John Bernard. I am the PTL for Cinder. The Cinder is, as the name implies, it is a block storage service for OpenStack, and it is responsible for handling all of the creation and management of persistent storage within the OpenStack ecosystem. This is my first go at being a PTL, and it's been a very productive cycle. I'm very grateful to all of the people that contributed to our project during the cycle. The transition into the PTL role and also managing all the patches and getting things landed went much smoother than I had prepared for, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. So for Cinder, for the Dalmatian cycle, we had about 120 commits. 90% of those were to the Cinder repository proper. The rest probably went to OS Brick. And that totals, I didn't put it in the slide, but I think we're looking at about 35,000 lines of code, which is consistent with previous releases. So things continue to move along for Cinder. The content of those changes and commits are predominantly driver features and bug fixes for this cycle. We don't have any major features, although hoping to get at least one or two into the epoxy cycle. There are a few things in the pipeline that we're excited about. So some examples of what was merged during this cycle: the power store and store pull drivers saw a lot of commits. Some noteworthy things were active support. Active refers to the high availability configuration where multiple drivers are running simultaneously, and they're able to accept API requests for volumes without stepping on each other's toes. And so having active support is for enterprise class deployments is incredibly valuable. Also, QoS support for the power store driver, which allows you to set I/O read and write limits for particular volumes and pools, and control resources on those backends. NetApp added support for HA active mode in their iSCSI and fiber channel drivers. The HPE added support for replication in the Nimble driver. And there's a long list of other commits that are of a similar nature, but these are some of the highlights. Many of the popular drivers received quite a few bug fixes and features added. Next slide, please. Let's see. Also, we did have one security issue that was reported. We try to address this. We try to take the security reports as seriously as we can and work as efficiently as we can to address them. There was one particular one that affected QCOW images that was required collaboration between Glance, Sender, and Nova, and we were able to make all the changes land in all of their respective projects to adequately address the issue. Incredibly grateful for the collaboration and all the folks involved on that issue. So that one was addressed. If you have more questions about that specifically, reach out to me either on the mailing list or on IRC or directly, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Significant improvements for Fujitsu, HPE, Hitachi, and PowerStore drivers. Those saw a tremendous number of small commits, but in aggregate, it totals probably a significant improvement in functionality and reduced bug surface area. And the Quobyte driver, the Quobyte storage driver was deprecated, as well as the GlusterFS backup driver. These drivers either we require third-party CI generally for our volume drivers. It is for many of these the hardware backends are something that a lot of us don't have access to. So these third-party CI deployments are necessary for us to actually test code on those respective backends. So if those CI deployments go away or aren't responsive or aren't reporting accurate results, it makes it hard to know whether or not the changes really have a positive or negative effect on the actual backend, and it affects our confidence in the code quality that we're releasing. So after a period of time, we mark drivers for deprecation, and this has happened to Quobyte and GlusterFS backups. But other than that, everything is moving forward. Next slide. And so, yeah, our PTG is coming up along with the rest of the teams. We're running from Tuesday to Friday. And the agenda is linked on the slide there. Related to epoxy, I think some of the things that we're looking for or looking to make progress on are migration from Eventlet. This is going to be an effort that needs to take place as we march forward, probably sooner rather than later. That's on the agenda. Encryption for backups and improvements around volume encryption in general are some of the things we're looking at. And I would like to say, with respect to the PTG, it's not just for developers or longtime contributors. If you have questions or ideas, or you're interested in getting involved in the project, or you have a thought that maybe something should be different, or maybe it could work better, the PTG is the most effective place to get those questions answered quickly and get direct feedback. We have generally more time allocated than we need, so please don't feel like you're imposing or adding scheduling pressure or anything like that. This is a perfect time to get to know the people involved in the project and raise ideas. This is where it's at for us. So please, if you have any inclination, please join or reach out if you're not sure how or what form that should take. I'll be happy to help out. And I think this is the majority. Yeah, this is it for Sender.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. To close it out, I just wanted to let everyone know, as mentioned multiple times, the PTG is coming up in just 2 short weeks, and it is completely free to attend. It is a fully virtual event. All the projects that presented here today will be attending the event, as well as multiple others, and as well as a few non-OpenStack related projects, including Kata Containers, StarlingX, and Ocean Base. We invite everyone to come join. It's a great opportunity to get involved in the community and learn how you can contribute upstream, as well as just generally get to know everyone a little bit better. Lastly, thank you all of our speakers who joined us today. It was a wonderful opportunity to talk about this 30th release of OpenStack and the accomplishment it is for the community. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution and to all our speakers who joined us today. That's it. Thank you all.